Okay, perfect. So, are you guys ready?
Yes.
We're ready.
Perfect. Okay, let's do it. We squished them over here all together. Yes, it's all good. It's all good. So we're talking about open houses, right? Open houses. Now, full disclaimer: we do have a few pandemic babies in the crowd. Okay, those who got licensed during pandemic, and some of them, not all of them, some of them never really experienced open houses and like how it used to be, right? So this is a really good opportunity to share insight, experience, and what have you, so people understand the potential, techniques, ideas, whatever you have in mind. So let's have a chat about it, right? Yeah, are you okay with that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's have a chat.
Okay, so talk to us. Share first of all, right? Let's start with you and then Luisa first. What's the difference between today's open house and when you first started to do an open house?
Okay, so the only difference for me personally that I can off the top of my head think of is just like COVID compliance, making sure that you're wearing the mask, making sure that if you're working on the listing side and it's actually your open house, you need to make sure that you're addressing these needs with your clients, making sure that things are sanitized, everyone's wearing a mask, social distancing. That's really the only difference. And one of the positives that actually came out of that is that it became an appointment only type of open house. I know that Emilio and I did that on a couple of our listings, and we're kind of carrying that over, where we're doing the appointments, and then it gives you that leverage where you can see if the client is pre-qualified. They're sending over that information before setting up the appointment. So the differences from pre-COVID to COVID would be a lot of the agents were asking for pre-quals, proof of funds while setting up the appointments, and having to be COVID compliant.
So you're saying basically it's pretty much just like nothing really changed besides that what we need to pay attention to compliance wise.
Yeah, I would say, and then obviously open house is just opened back up 4 months ago.
Yeah, about that.
So
3-4 months ago. Yeah. Luisa, same experience?
Yeah, same thing. Just
you can copy the
yeah.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, copy and paste.
Double.
Whatever that said.
Yeah.
Whatever she said, Dito.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so now you've been practicing for what, about 1.5 years, kind of full on?
I got my license at the end of October of last year. Went into full production in January. Had my first open house.
Yeah, not even right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so open house we did maybe in March, was it?
March,
in Santa Clarita. Yeah, so it was a great experience, a lot of learning and a lot of observing. So a lot of communication with your client obviously is important. It's their home. We had a listing last month, and our client there was very particular about who was being let in. We assured them that we were going to follow all compliance. We had the buoys on, we had the mask, we had the gloves. So we definitely want to communicate that how you're going to run your open house and how your client wants you to project that. So.
Yeah, and we'll talk more in depth about the actual experience and the ROI, etc. But let's go to the very beginning, right? Open house. What is your strategy to showtime, right? When you're actually there at the open house, whatever time it starts, what do you do before? What's the strategy? What's the organization? What's the thought behind it before you're actually going into that?
We're going to need more than an hour class. Yeah.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So it's
copy and paste.
Again, this class is not going to be able to cover everything because there's just so much. If you want us to start from before the open house.
Okay, thank you, Luisa.
Yes. No, seriously, not seriousness. There's a strategy.
Let's go. Yeah.
We've got, postcards. We've got marketing. It's our pictures, all the marketing campaign that actually goes out to the farm, to that area. Coming soon, just listed. door knocking the area, letting the neighbors know we've got this great new listing coming on. That's pre-open house. I mean, there's a lot of hype, you know, social media hype, cold calling hype. There's a lot that goes into it even before we actually do the open house. Now going to the open house, that's a whole nother ball game. So, you know, Emilio and even before Emilio became a licensed agent, you know, I hired a professional coach at the beginning of this year, and it's all about strategy. You're doing these open houses to get leads. That's why we're doing it. And also if it's your listing, you're doing it to sell your listing. So in this most recent listing, and we're really refining it, is getting there half an hour to 45 minutes early, setting up the signs early in the morning, having the signs out as directionals leading to the open house.
How early?
Gosh, you can get out there at 3 a.m. Kidding. Like around 8 a.m. Maybe not copy and paste on that one.
Night before.
So, yeah, the night before, or, you know, depending, you have to look at the rules for the area too, because you can't necessarily do it the night before. So make sure that you're looking up the rules for the area, but I would say as early as 8 a.m., depending on, again, the rules. Making sure that you have someone extra body or two to man the front. This market is super hot. We all know that. So it being super duper hot, you want to make sure that you've got the flow going in such a way to where it's not chaotic.
So hold on, before we're going to go to actual, the open house, instead of talking about the prep. No, it'd be good. And feel free to jump in, okay? So let's break it down to two different strategies, right? One, it's your listing. So listing, then there's a different prep work before, because you want to do the just listed postcode, etc. Fine, but I don't want to go into farming.
Sorry, okay.
No, you're good. So, because it leads to what people might be thinking about, right? Let's say you're just hosting someone's open house, which is going to be more common. Okay. So, Luisa, yeah.
So when I host somebody else's open house, of course, I do research on the property. I talk to the agent. What's on the open? What about the property that's not on the MLS that I need to know so I can relate to the buyers, potential buyers, and other agents, such as new roof. Is it that do you already have offers? How many offers? You know, are they motivated? Blah blah blah. I try to, when I get an open house, I try to do it either from Monday through Wednesday, because then Wednesday is my prep time. Thursday I start doing my cold calling. I start making my, Wednesday night, once I have my open house and get all information, then Wednesday night I do my flyers. I send it out to social media. Then the next day I do cold calling or door knocking, or both. Depending if it's a Saturday and Sunday, then I will do door knocking on Thursday and Friday. Basically, I would do at least 200 homes within the area.
When you door knock, you just door knock and invite, or do you drop something as well, like a small invitation? Both. Okay.
I door knock and say like, hey, good afternoon. My name is Luisa. I'm with Keller Williams. We have a new listing just down the street from you. Who do you know that would love to be your neighbor? And then I give them the information, the flyer. We would love to see you there. And then they start the communication, right? Like, oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. So then we do the invitation. On open house, if, like Nina said, depending on, you know, the restrictions, if I'm there Friday door knocking, I will bring, and I have an open house the same time as both Saturday and Sunday, I would leave out my signs. So if I have I usually would bring my mentee in.
And on side note, you do have just double checking the area, because a lot of areas or cities will take your sign away and give you a fine. Or the local neighbors will take the sign because they just, that's how they are, or an agent might, you know, it happens to everybody. Just let's be aware of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's why you double check, of course.
Yeah.
But if I can't do it, then I'll do it on the day of open house. I will be at my open house. So if I have an open house at 11, I will be at the property by 8 o'clock, putting out my signs, checking out the neighborhood. Of course, I do that anyway when I'm door knocking, just making sure I know like where the schools are, how, you know, the stores and all that stuff, right? And then I also do a market update and find out like what's being sold, what's going on in the community, what is listed, blah, blah, blah.
Is that for the when you walk around, or just for the open house itself, like as a handout?
Open houses up, both on the day of the open house and also when door knocking, because they're going to ask us,
Sure.
What's going on with our property, with our community? Well, actually, down the street, there's another for sale that was, at 700,000, and then one was just sold, and they're like, wow, the community. Yeah, I'm your neighborhood real estate agent. So they're like, oh, okay. So that's one of the things that I do, and then they'll just, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. So I'll do my prep 2 to 3 hours before I get to the house. I give myself 30 minutes to get into the property and then scope the house to make sure what do I like. I put out like all my open house stuff, and then I check it out. Like, okay, what the house is about? How many bedrooms? What the bedrooms look like? How big they are? Is there a pool? How does the pool look like? Is it open floor plan? How does the kitchen look like? All that stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. For a newer agent like myself, I'm very cost effective. What do I mean by that? We have a lot of tools that our brokerage provides, right? So we have Command. So leading up to the open house, obviously you want to have material to come from value to your clients. So I use Command a lot to create my flyers. I'll utilize our forward living marketing team as well. Mm-hmm. If I want something a little bit more polished, more professional, it just depends if I'm doing my own listing or if I'm doing an open house. But what's nice about that is I can come in on Monday, create my flyer, and then on Tuesday, I'm out the door doing door drops. Sure. Right. Yeah. And what's nice about that is you're able to put on a lot of information on these flyers, including a QR code that will give them a tour of the property, the specs on the property. It'll give them through our KW app. It'll give you information on the entire neighborhood. So that's a lot of value for a lot of potential clients when you're door knocking. This past weekend, I had a Saturday open house. Thursday, I was door knocking. One of those potential clients came in. Mm-hmm. She said, and I quote, "I'm checking out the competition." Yeah. So that told me this person is thinking about potentially listing their home. That's what I got from that. Right. I said, great. I sparked up the conversation with her, had a good rapport. I thanked her for coming in, and became an instant client, because she's like, when my family comes back from Dubai in the next 6 months, stay in touch with me. I'm going to be moving in with them. Right. So that came from door knocking prior to the open house, inviting these clients in and utilizing all of the features that they provide for us here.
And another good job. And another question is, how many homes do you usually door knock? What's the radius? If it's streets or number of homes around the specific open house?
200 at least.
Yeah. I mean, you want to hit as many as you can.
Yeah. And I just wanted to, on that, it's, the goal is 200. But a lot of times, especially when I'm with Nina, we go out and we talk to maybe 50 people, because we have 15, 20-minute conversations with these clients, which we're building that rapport. Sure. Yesterday I went out with one of our mentees, Salima, and we hit maybe about 40 doors, mm-hmm. right? And it was more of a drop and go, drop and go, drop and go. Yeah, so, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So because of what he just said, because of what Emilio just said, so our goal, my goal every time I door knock is at least 200 homes. So I do Thursday and Friday. But if I don't, when I make the calls, I also send out texts. So I use, for now, because I have, with me and my mentees, we have Mojo, but if you don't have the plans, then use your title rep and just ask your title rep, give me, 200, 500 homes from this address. So we would usually do about 500 numbers, mm-hmm. and make calls like 500 to 1,000 numbers. And then other than making phone calls to invite them via text, if we don't get a hold of them on the phone, then we also send them emails, because Mojo also has emails. So I will put them on my MailChimp and send out emails inviting them to the open house. And the past weekend that I have, a couple of times, they actually got my invitation through email.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm all like, oh, it works.
That's great. I mean, you definitely want to put the word out, And yeah, she did mention she's using Mojo, which is a dialing system, or you can go through title rep as well. It's a bit trickier right now because you can't just, they can't just give it to you, right? Or you can find like online resources that sells phone numbers, etc. The only thing you have to be cautious if the number is on the do not call list, And sometimes those numbers are on those various lists and whatever. So the best really solution to, if you do call someone who's very, very upset because I'm clear on the do not call list, say, I'm sincerely apologize. And are you okay with me letting my broker know to take you off our lists in our specific brokerage? I don't know how your number got there. I'm so sorry. Versus to try to justify why I did it and don't know, and it's this list and that list. Don't go there. Apologize. Okay.
Just say sorry.
Yeah, because there's I don't want to say entities, but there's individuals and more than that they're looking to sue. They're just waiting for the call. Okay, so you have to be careful. Now let's talk about the open house itself, right? So you guys mentioned, okay, 8 o'clock, the day of, what have you. You put, prepare the day of, the listings, etc. How many signs do you use? What do you choose to put in? And then I'm going to jump to the actual house itself. Do you use flags, no flags, fireworks? What do you do?
I have a spinning guy that comes in. I'm the spinning guy.
It's possible,
Yeah, we have a live bachata band.
Yeah.
Somebody says, yeah.
Mariachis are coming out.
No.
I got the open house.
I got Billie Eilish singing. Janet Jackson.
I don't use flags. We're very simplistic. We have our signs.
How many signs do you use?
About 9.
9, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know some agents put out like 40, 50.
Yeah.
That's you. Yeah, 9 is good for me. I know Emilio's building up his signage. He's got like 3 now.
3.
Yeah, but he's eventually going to add to it. So yeah, and I mean, it's directional. So you want to think of busy streets. You want to think of obviously a sign in front of the house and in the neighborhood, but you really want to think like the streets, the major intersections, the major cross streets is where you want to have and it's also your marketing. People, they may not be in the market right now, but they see your sign and they're like, I'm going to call this agent. I'm looking to sell in the next year.
It's a free ad.
It's free advertising. Yeah. So as many signs that you can put out, the better.
Same thing.
Well, I was just going to add to that is, one of the things that I do is you have the open house sign, but you may have 2 or 3 other open houses going on in the area. So you definitely want to put in the address and the times, right? And put it on your sign. So that way it's not only giving them direction. Obviously, everybody's using Google Maps or whatever the case might be. But if somebody's just driving by, they may see your sign and it has the address pointing, go this way, right? So it has the address for it as well.
I use both. I use flags, and then I have 12 or 15 signs. But then if I have my mentees come, I ask them to bring their own signs as well.
Right.
So same thing. And we, like what Nina said, is always diagonal, like main busy streets, and then I put it in within the community and then outwards. So it's always like, it's like a box, right? So it's funny because like, I did an open house in Agora, he saw my sign, and then Roger Horn saw my sign. He's like, your sign was all over Agora. I'm like, yeah. And then when we did the sign, when I did one in Glendale just last weekend, Christina and Ed was like, I saw your sign in Eagle Rock. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you had an open house over there. I'm like, oh yeah, in Glendale. Like, yeah, it was so weird. Like, we were just driving by and I saw your sign. And I'm like, and you didn't say hi? And he was like, I know, we were like in a rush. I'm like, okay, forgiven.
Yeah.
And
by the way, as a courtesy, because maybe we haven't seen it recently because of the, once again, not too many open houses yet, like in masses like it used to be before pandemic. But if you place the sign and there are other signs next to you in that specific corner, don't move any sign.
Do not do that.
And then if you do see a sign that is down, pick it up. Pick it up.
Courtesy.
Okay. Courtesy. Pick it up. Yeah. Just as exactly.
But if you see there's an open house, I always visit the other open houses and introduce myself to the agent.
Right.
Because I want to see, and I let them know, like, hey, I'm actually having an open house also down the street. I just want to see what you have versus what I have, because maybe the people that comes into my open house might like yours better. Right. So I want to be able to know. So
show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Exactly. Rub my back, I have yours.
Fun open houses for sure.
Hey, I'm up at 4.
And if you don't have time to go and visit them because you're in the open house, you can give them a call before, because you know who's going to open house, right? The day before. So we are the open house, right? And you guys mentioned maybe another person, right? First of all, always be concerned about your safety. Safety first, right? Especially if you're near to the business industry, male, female, doesn't really matter, right? Make sure that you understand the layout of the house and what's going on, and you're comfortable. If you're not comfortable, bring someone with you.
Can we speak on that a little bit about safety?
Yeah,
so just a couple of tips. Manny is 1,000% correct, especially, and not to be sounding sexist because I'm not, and love our men. But as women, we have to really, really be careful. So one of the things that I do, I definitely make sure I have pepper spray, and make sure to text my mom, any family members, my location. I always let people know too when I'm walking in, oh, come on in, take a look around. Let me know if you have any questions. My partner just went next door. He'll be right back. Even though that's not the case, it's just kind of putting it out there. And another thing that you guys can do too, you can put a sign up saying, cameras are on and watching.
Smile on camera.
Smile, you're on camera. Yeah. So we just, and always too, make sure that they're walking in front of you. You're never in front, because then it's easier for them to target you if there is a situation. And, we have to just be careful. I mean, it's one of those things, unfortunately, where we just have to exercise that caution and just be aware of your surroundings. If something doesn't feel right, it's not right. Make sure you have your phone with you at all times. Make sure you have your pepper spray, and just pay attention to your intuition.
So so now even if you're comfortable, what have you, right? Especially in the same connotation or regardless, right? If you're in a house, or in a house that is not vacant, right? If it's lightly staged, it's fine. But if it's someone still living in the house, etc., and you're by yourself, or even two people, you can't be at all places at the same time, all the time, right? So spread out those smile your camera throughout the house, especially in places where there's personal items, like a closet or whatever, because, a lot of cases in the past of people stealing from open houses, and then it falls on you as well. So it's not just your safety, it's also your client's safety and privacy, right? So once again, there's a simple, print those little smiling camera, put them throughout the house in some rooms, etc., if you need to, right? In the second part of that, if the house is really big, right, you wanna seize every opportunity. Because someone walks in, you're talking to them, and they seem like serious buyers, no representation, etc. You want to come to them, maybe show the house. But then another couple walks in.
That's a strategy.
What do? So let's talk about that.
So one of the things, and I'm going to let Emilio kind of chime in here, because this is kind of what we did. We actually brought in some of my mentees, and we had them at the front door, kind of manning the front door. We had only 2 parties in at a time. Emilio would take one party, I would take the other. And then that way we're able to give the customer experience. We want to, and so for us, it's not just come on in, take a look around, let us know. No, we actually are going to walk with you, because this is our listing, and we do have our clients' belongings. And some people were a little bit like, oh, we could walk. I said, no, actually our clients live here. So we are asked that we must walk you around. That way, if you have any questions,
we'll give a tour of the house.
Yeah. And with that, we're building that rapport. And then we have, Salima, we had Sharon, we had different mentees there that were manning the front and saying, we'll bring you in just a moment. You want to add to that? Because there's a lot more to add.
I was going to say, incorporate your partner, your network, right? So what do I mean by that? You have your title, you have your escrow company, you have your lenders. We invited our preferred lender, and she was great, interacting with the clients, and anybody that wasn't represented, she's right there. Our lender is talking to them about pre-qual, so it was a very easy transition. She was very interactive. So build a group around you, build a team, and it's fun. When you have the team, somebody checking them in, hey, how you doing? We had maybe, at one point we had 5 or 6 people waiting, groups of people waiting outside. So instead of them just hanging around, our greeters talking to them a little bit about the features of the property, getting them to download the information on the property to sign them in. Again, another command feature, right, is you scan the QR code, it pops up all the information on the property, gives them a video tour, and then also allows you to sign them in, and it goes directly to your command CRM.
As a lead,
right.
Yeah, and also too, kind of going back to the beginning of this training, that goes back into COVID. You know, we have to still social distance. You know, we do have our clients that are living there, and we want to protect their safety and everyone else's. So there's that respect there. Kind of going back to how you were saying the nurturing of the relationships. On that open house, we have 5 listings coming from that one open house, not to mention 10 buyers. So all of those listings that are coming, and we already have one that's
from one open house.
From one open house, and we already have one of the listings that's already in. It's going live on October 1st. So
yeah,
there's the strategy and the rapport and that relationship and giving that one-on-one experience. It's okay that they're outside. We're here with you. Now, obviously, we were very mindful of the time. At one point, Emilio was with Aaron for like almost an hour, and I was like, because we had to, you know, we had to wrap it up. We had to get to the other people. So we're looking at each other like, okay, next one we got it. So, but it's that strategy, and then at the end, we were able to come together and say, okay, these are wins, but what can we do better? It's always what can you do to be even better.
That's good. Yeah. Luisa, do anything else that you do?
No, just kidding. So to everyone out there that has kids that can run and walk and talk, use them. So I actually started bringing my son along, and he's 16. And so he helps me put out my 24 signs. So I drive and he runs. I'm like, you're young, go ahead, right? So he runs out, he does.
Is that illegal?
Yes.
Not in my house.
I'm
Not
just
in my house.
Equal proper education.
Yes.
Equal
Starting them
opportunity.
young.
Starting
Yeah.
them young. If he wants to eat and live in my house, he's gonna have to work. So I have him that, and then at my open house, I made him the snack boy. So he gives out the waters and the snacks.
Okay, which I probably want to talk about it. So perfect. That's
Yeah.
great.
And so same thing, like, you know, I bring my mentees, and so like the last open house we did the same thing. We had to tour them one by one. And so we had people there, and his thing was like, you do not talk about the property. You just ask them to sign in and you give them a flyer. And that's it.
And he cannot talk about the property because he's not licensed.
Exactly, yeah. Nothing at all. So that was the only thing that he did. And what's funny is that I used him also at my other open house at Agora, and all these people, like, he was like, oh, would you guys like some water and snacks? And a couple was like, oh my gosh, this customer service is amazing. Like, you have a full house, you have like a bar there, you give us a tour. I'm all like, of course. When do you want to list?
And those agents, they get younger and younger.
Yeah. Yeah, and then one of the guys was like, this is your son? Like, yeah, that's my son, he's working, don't talk to him. But what's funny is that also the agents that's coming in, they were like, wow, there's a lot of you guys here. Like, this is like amazing, like, you know? It's
back to the consumer experience, right? Yeah, which is a big thing today. Right? So once again, and I'll talk mostly, I mean, you can mix it up. It's, you know, pre-COVID or today about what you present, right? So talk about, it can be like, you know, some kind of food, beverages or whatever, handouts. What is it that you present? What do you use?
Yeah, so I think that's going to be depending on your client. It's all going to come down to your client. I know that I've got a listing coming, and I'm going to bring in some Brazilian element to it.
Brazilian nuts? Like what do you mean?
Not Brazilian nuts.
That's all you get. Not even cooked.
What is this? No. It's going to be like, I'm probably going to have like a live Batucada band, which is a Brazilian band. I'm going to bring a little bit of my flavor to this open house because I can do that, because I've already had the established relationship with my investors. So I think it's really going to come down to your seller, talking to your seller. Are you okay with us having light beverages, snacks? Because again, if someone's living there, they may not want a lot of food and tract potentially. So we were actually thinking about doing that, and then talking to our client, we were like, okay, no. So we had waters. For Halloween, you can get creative. You could have like little chocolate covered candies and give those out to the kids. But again, it comes down to the respect of your client. You have to make sure that you talk to your client. All of these things, by the way, it's really just attracting people. People feel warm and fuzzy inside when they come in and there's food. People love food. Pre-COVID, we would go to brokers' opens, and there was so many good sandwiches. And I got so excited.
And champagne.
Oh, I didn't have champagne.
Oh, well, you were there. Okay. Remember,
But like the sandwiches were so good. And I just remember those were like amazing. And I said, wow, one day I'm gonna have sandwiches like this. But it's changed. And so I feel like you just have to talk to the client and really find out what they're comfortable with and respect their wishes. It could be a big blowout to something very just simple. And simplicity is always amazing as well. So yeah, I would say just talk to the seller and kind of go with them on if they're open to beverages and snacks. And entertainment. Like I said, I'm going to do something a little bit different, but again, that's my client.
A theme of some kind.
Like a theme, yeah.
Yeah. What what about that's a big thing in open houses, like bake some cookies for the scent, or do you do any of that? Or
no? Well, because of COVID, there's no like baking or open. So mine is all covered, like cookies, different types of cookies.
Cookie spray.
Cookie spray.
They have cookie spray.
Or a candle.
A candle.
Yeah. Or just like bake the cookies. Do not touch.
You put some music, no music?
Yes.
Music, yes.
Yes, definitely music. When I do my open houses, because I used to do property management. So we were taught like in property management to do the 5 senses, right? So our apartments is always that we show like the models. If you guys go to an apartment, go check it out. Like their model will always catch all of your 5 senses. Yeah. One is your eyes. So that's why you want it to be pretty, clean, right? Stage. 2 is the smell. So it's like, oh, does it smell like cookies? Does it feel like home? Or does it feel like, oh, it smells like somebody just took a bathroom? I don't know. Or then 3, touch. And touch is basically we have snacks in the fridge or snacks outside because they can touch it. They can see like, okay, this is what my kitchen will look like. Oh, wow, towels on the kitchen, right? Open the door and all their water bottles. Yeah, please take a snack. So the last open house we did in Santa Clarita, it was a vacant. So I utilized the fridge. I put like the waters there. And so my son will do like, would you guys like some water? And he would open the door and everyone like, oh, this is concierge service, right? Then the other one is
the music.
Yeah. And then also the taste, that's where the food is, and then the music. So I would have my Spotify. I have a little speaker that I will put like either behind, in the living room, like before they come in, something really, it depends on the house, like something relaxing. If it's like, modern, then I do kind of like modern, like no lyrics, like to be like happy. So like to make, I try to do it with what the house is, like the mood of the house. So then people will be like, oh, okay. So that's what I do.
Yeah, I think the music is great actually, because it also uplifts your energy is already up and you're so pumped up and excited for the open house. With me, I love music. So whenever there's like, and again, it's gonna be, I kind of like put the music depending on like the mood. Like, well, maybe we'll have some light jazz, maybe a little light bossa nova, something just where it's like the mood is just, it just kind of, and people walk in and they're like, and we've had a lot of people, they're like, I like the music. Yeah. And I'm like, thank you. Do you like the house?
Yeah. It's just the first thing that they hear. It's like the music, like, oh, wow. Like,
It creates a vibe, guys.
So
creates the environment.
Yeah, focus on the 5 senses, right? Which is good. It's going to give you the well-defined, okay, what should we focus on? That's awesome. What about handouts? Do you have your business cards, something about the area, about the property? What do you offer?
Yes, so definitely information on the property, business cards, maybe some partner information, and then one thing that I like to do as well is in different rooms, I'll put up QR codes. So if especially if it's a bigger property, they're going into a different part of the house, they're scanning that, they're able to see more details about that specific area. So if there's a pool outside, you want to go check out the pool type of thing. So the QR code is going to be the same at all rooms for them just to easy scan. Right.
Okay.
So that's another touch that I do at the open house as well.
Okay. What else? If you put on
Copy and paste.
No,
That's
I do like market updates of what was sold, so then they know, you know, if the market is like if our pricing is correct or like how much. So sometimes they will question you, right? Like, how much do you think they're thinking about? So, you know, like they'll flip it and there's the market up. I'm like, wow, like everything here is being sold above asking. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Or I would have a lender like write down the payment breakdown depending on how much, you know, FHA, conventional, whatever, and then also like their deposits. We'll also have information about the community, like the schools, where the school is at, shops, all that stuff, or like walking this, hiking, you know, depending on what the community is about. Yeah, like Agora, like we did like hiking, Starbucks,
right,
schools, because it's LBUSD. So it's like, that's what, you know, we incorporated in there.
And the great thing about everything that Luisa just said and Emilio is that this may be Luisa's listing and it may not. She's doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. So when you're giving so much value on a property that's not really yours, people, they don't know. And it's all perception. So they're looking at you as the expert. They're like, wow, Luisa really knows about this property. I don't have an agent. Would you maybe come over and look at our home because we're thinking about selling at the end of the year? Now she just picked up a client because she's a wealth of knowledge. And that's the key thing. It doesn't matter if it's not your listing, just come from contribution and have all the information. Don't be that lazy agent that comes in unprepared, doesn't know what recently sold, doesn't know what's recently active as a comp to this. You have to know that information. Yeah. They're going to ask you, if they're interested and they don't have an agent and they're talking to you and building that rapport, they're going to ask you as their expert, well, what do you think I should come in for my offer? Yeah. You need to be on your toes and know your stuff and be able to confidently give them that knowledge and say, well, this is where it's going. Yeah. Here's the proof. These are the comps.
I always think like every time I do an open house, I host an open house that's not mine. It's like I'm on an audition, right? Because I'm auditioning to other sellers wanting me to sell their home. I'm auditioning to other buyers who wants to represent me. All these open houses that I posted, not a single one asked me if I was the listing agent. They all thought I was the listing agent. Even though the sign—
Because you own the stage.
Exactly, like I own the listing. Even though there's a sign that's different from mine, like they don't look at that. They look at who's inside, who's talking to them, who's on the flyer, whose business card are, you know, taking. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so like I always own it. Like, oh yeah, it's my open house. But if there's an agent, like, oh yeah, I work with the listing agent.
That's a good point that Luisa brings up, because you never know who's going to be coming into the open house, right? And I'll give you an example. This Saturday when I was hosting an open house, it was an investment property. At the very end, I noticed there was somebody out in the parking lot or in the street waiting around for about 20 minutes. And I'm keeping an eye thinking, what's going on? Mm-hmm. He walks in, I greet him, I give him all the information about the property. And midway through my conversation, he just gives me a little chuckle. He's like, you don't know who I am, huh? I was like, no. And he's like, I'm the owner of this property. Right? So I was like, I'm glad I was on, right? Because I was like, come on in. You know, it's like, no, you got to be on. You got to be, you know, on.
Right. That's a perfect example, by the way.
Right. Yeah. So it was one of those things. Like I'm glad that was
checked.
I was like.
By the way, a big thing about that, just FYI, someone always assume that someone is listening all the time.
And watching.
That would be me.
That's right. Because number one, you know, most homes have Ring today.
Right.
A lot of them might have hidden cameras, right? Phone detectors or whatever it is. Or once again, you don't know who's on the other room on the second floor. And I can't tell you how many times, especially in the days of us doing Brokers Open, right, tour, and then one of the agents, oh my God, I hate this carpet or whatever. And then the owner steps outside from the room, and it's very embarrassing.
Yes.
Okay, so don't be that person.
Yes.
Now, it's also that's embarrassing. But when it comes to violation and ethics, etc., is when you're outside the front door or the back door talking to your buyer when you're showing a house or whatever, even if you have the listing agent or you're hosting an open house, and then you're talking whatever you're talking about, and the seller might be watching you on the camera and listen to the whole thing, and you can say something that's going to put you in the trouble, even to the extent of losing your license.
Yeah.
So always assume someone is listening. You have to be very smart about it, because once again, you're a professional, you're a realtor.
My buyer actually won. This was last year. My buyer won the bid out of 12 people because one, they loved my clients, but also because there was something on the Ring camera that they saw, and we were up against. It was really like only 3 offers, but the other 2, they made some kind of snide comments outside. And the thing about it, guys, it's so true. You just never know. I think it's like, you just have the utmost integrity. Yeah. Don't just do the right thing when people are looking. Do the right thing when no one's looking. Do it all the time. Yeah. Because you just never know.
Yeah.
Or even if you're at an open house and you're walking around, and then the buyers or the potential buyers is making a remark, you don't agree. Just say like, oh, okay, no worries. Like, I'll let the sellers know. Like, you don't say like, I know you're right. That is an ugly carpet. You don't agree with that. I mean, just like, oh, okay, no worries. I'll let the sellers know. I'm pretty sure that's negotiable when you write in an offer.
Right. Exactly.
Always be mindful to what you guys say, because you don't know who's watching, or you don't know who's listening. Because it doesn't have to be the seller. It could be other potential buyers and other agents.
And it's a matter of practice. It's how you practice as well. Now, so what I've gathered, and it was phenomenal. It's a lot about the presentation and how you present yourself and in the house, 5 senses, etc. What about lore, language of real estate? How deep do you dive into knowing the if it's a complex, investor versus homeowner ratio? If it's maybe months of inventory. If someone sold the houses around, you actually go into title and you see it's John Smith, you can say, John Smith sold the house 2 months ago for so and so. How deep do you dive into it, really? Or more on the surface? Price per square foot?
I mean,
copy and paste.
Pass that away.
Okay, I go deep because I want to, again, I do this to protect my client, and I do it because I love this industry, and I have a fiduciary duty.
Thank you, because I just want to add a little bit, on that one, because you're a consultant, you're an advisor, right? So continue.
So it really just comes down to, what are your intentions behind being a consultant, an advisor? Is your intention just money? Can't really help you then. You're in the wrong class. If your intention is here to protect the client, have longevity in this industry, then you're going to do everything you can, and you're going to know everything that you can, and you're going to immerse yourself in diving deep and knowing lot size, square footage, previous, what it sold for, when it sold, the comps. You're going to know everything, because you want to be that consultant that's trusted. You want to, at the end of this transaction, you want what's called a raving fan. You want someone that's going to stick with you, and that when they think of real estate, they're going to think of Luisa. They're going to think of Emilio, Christine Willer. They're going to think of agents like Philip and Joey and all these amazing agents that are showing that they're here to protect you. That's the one thing I learned from one of our agents here when I started this office, Ellen Katzman. This is when Ignite was the Ignite that I missed, and one day I'm sure we'll get back there. But this Ignite that we took, and the one thing she told us is, why are you a real estate agent? What is your job as a real estate agent? And you had different answers. To sell, just different answers. No, it's to protect the client.
Right.
So if you're here to protect the client, then you want to know everything, or as much as you can. And if you don't know, get the answers. And
you don't really have to know everything. You just have to know enough about that specific area. At each time, it's enough, Friday before, or Saturday if it's a Sunday open house, to go and, 20, 30 minutes, do some basic research, know the numbers, and then you become a pro. And guess what? After a year, 2, 3 years, if you're consistently doing a lot of open houses, you pretty much covered almost every area. So you will understand the trend, because they don't really change as much. Price will change, but the trend kind of stay consistent to some extent.
Yeah. I'm sorry. One other thing I want to also say too, and I know our time's getting low. Remember that what you do at this open house, kind of going back to what Manny was saying, and also Luisa too, how you're basically auditioning to be the next consultant to the seller or buyer. What you do, they're watching, and they're watching everything that you're doing, and they're taking notice in a way of, wow, if she and he is doing this at this listing, look at what they're going to do for mine. Trust me, they see the agents that stand up and say, oh, hi, I'm Nina Alexander. Thank you for coming to our open house. Come on in, versus on the phone. Yeah. Hi, come on in, take a look around. Let me know if you have any questions. Back on the phone, right? No, stand up and greet people when they come in. Have energy, have life, be genuine. People are going to respond to that versus you sitting down on the phone or looking at playing a game. That's not why you're there. Or working.
And it's okay to work between visits. If it's a downtime, it's prime time for you to catch up with the lead gen and follow up of some kind, but not, You're
right.
Yeah, so you have to be careful.
But if you do your prep correctly, there's no downtime. You're always up and talking.
Yeah, well, it depends on the open house as well, right? So some open houses, you will find that they're going to be more quiet if it's overpriced. So, but if it's your listing, just make sure that if you took an overpriced listing, you might going to have very low traffic, right? Or someone else's listing, but it's still a good practice no matter what, right?
And one thing, my experience, working in Santa Clarita, working in the San Fernando Valley, West Hills, Northridge, and open houses, you have a lot of people that are coming in from LA, the West Side, Long Beach. So you want to you want to give them the lay of the land, right? So a lot of people came into the West Hills because of El Camino Real School District, right? A lot of people are going to Northridge because their kids are going into college. They might go to CSUN. So if you know those things and people are coming from outside of the city, a lot of people are moving up north and wanting to be in the San Fernando Valley. You can give them those tips and tricks of what the school districts are like. And if you're knowledgeable there, especially if they have young kids, that's a good in with them. It's really important for them to know that.
Yeah, I mean, once again, be resourceful in that sense, so they know, this guy can actually give me more information, not just about that specific, property, right? Even though when it comes to things like school, crime, or whatever, you can share of something as in a sense of like, this is what I know, or this is what I heard. And then you can add, however, go onto this website and look it up. Okay, LAPD crime, whatever, or the schools, never determine what it is, because if you change an hour ago, you might carry the liability as well. So, but definitely be a resource, 100%. Yeah. That's a great
also point. Know like the neighboring areas.
Yeah.
Right, like Philip and I were talking on the script on Thursday when he was like, pretending to like wanting a house on Calabasas for like 10,000 square feet for 5 bedroom, 4 bath for like 1 million. And I'm like, 1 million? Are you high? You're right. So so if that's not the right house for them, like, and like if I was in Agora, I'm like, well, what about Oak Park? Or what about, Calabasas area? You might like that better. School district is about the same. Oak Park, Oak Park Unified School District is as good as LVUSD, which is Las Virgenes, and also there's Westlake Unified School District. They're all in the 9s, right? So that's why you want to know not just for that particular neighborhood, but also outside, because you don't know who's going to come in. Maybe they're just, I'm just wanting to see what this neighborhood is like.
And that's the part where you pre-qualifying, not financially, but pre-qualifying the client.
Right.
Like, buyer, you always want to be ready and willing, right? Ready financially, intentionally, etc. Willing, they're like, okay, they're ready to go right now. And there's, like what's the reasons that they are looking to buy or move to that specific area. Right.
And that's why it's important for them to sign in. Because that's why, you start like asking those questions and you like remember, and then when they walk out, they're like, oh, I remember Philip. Okay, put a mark on that. Okay, 1 bedroom, 5 bedrooms, 3 bath Calabasas. We'll talk to him about Agora, blah, 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 1.5, like get the highlights.
Yeah.
Like we're not saying to talk to them like the whole time at open house, but get the highlights really quick so then you can move on to the other buyers without making them feel like, oh, you're rushing me, right?
And Emilio, you mentioned something that is very valuable as well. You said, you know, you open houses at times, what have you, you have the lender with you, right? So if you can get your lender to sit with you, to host with you the open house, that's huge because you really have the person who can pre-qualify financially the client by asking the right questions. And guess what? If they're prime and they have a good sense of who you guys are when I work with you, he's gonna sit with them right there and figure things out, right? So
yeah,
that's huge.
And to that point, I mean, after that open house that we did in Northridge, our lender was there. After that open house, we had 3 clients that we already had scheduled appointments with our lender. It's huge to qualify them afterwards, right? So it wasn't necessarily something that happened right there and then, but calls were already set up, you know, to talk to them afterwards. So
and plus you can also ask them to help you with the stats.
Oh, she brought a lot of stuff.
oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have to worry about it. You know, all you have to worry about is just go put out your signs.
Yeah.
And then you know, have them that okay, go in the house, put out the signs while put out the signs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're not rushing.
Awesome stuff. So do you think it could be a fun idea, maybe next open house class to do actually in a realistic?
Yes.
So maybe like, you know, you guys over, you know, have the option, maybe actually goes to the open house signs, the handouts, snacks, stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You can tour through the house for us and show how it's been done.
Yeah, I think so. I've got a listing coming in 2 weeks.
When?
Woodland House.
Okay. All right,
Actually, I've got 2 in October. So one in Newbury Park and one in Woodland House.
Woodland House.
Yeah, on Calvert.
Are you okay with that idea to actually do a real live open house?
And it's empty. It's an empty house, so it's gonna be safe. So.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Well, anything else?
Well, I mean, make sure we're covering questions.
It's good.
Just
yeah, it's just comments. Yeah, it's all good. And once again, this is recorded, so we're gonna share with all of you. And if you missed any previous recordings, it's gonna be cool actually to go back to we didn't have it in 2020, but go back to 19 to 18. Look at the sessions from back then about same masterminds, open houses, what people are sharing and strategies and stuff like that. So it's all on our channel. So Luisa, Emilio, Nina, thank you guys.
Yeah, this was
you guys
great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Hi guys, thank you for being here.
Bye.
See you soon.
Open house. You guys got it.
I want this.